Welcome to another episode of the Leadership Download. We're here for another great interview with Pastor Mike Robertson. He is the global pastor of Visalia Visalia First Church in Central California. Pastor Mike just recently transitioned from a lead pastor role to global pastor of the church. They have about 3,000 attendees at the church, and recently he wrote a book called Dealing with Difficult People Without Killing Them. This book was written by Pastor Mike, and we go into a deep dive on how he handles dealing with difficult people through his pastoral experience. And so we hope you enjoy this great interview with Pastor Mike Robertson. Well, welcome to another episode of the Leadership Download. Today we have a special guest here, Pastor Mike Robertson. Thank you, Mike, for being with us on this episode of the Leadership Download. Pastor Mike, do you want to tell a little bit about yourself?
Well, hey, first off, just thank you for having me, and I appreciate that very, very much. My journey has been an interesting one. I haven't always been a Christian guy, but had a few experiences. And when I was 19, and I really turned my life around when I found God. I was a dope smoking, beer drinking, girl chasing, knucklehead kid, spent all my money every time I got a paycheck. And finally, I had an experience with God, changed my life, and I did not know I was supposed to be a pastor, but later on became a pastor, and I've been pastoring for probably the last 30 years, or I don't know, I quit counting. When you get my age, you quit counting. Yeah, and pastor today a great church out in California, Central California, Visalia, and I've been really enjoying life. Yeah, that's about all there is to say about me, I think.
Well, yeah, Pastor Mike, thanks for taking the time to be with us. I know you have a very busy schedule, and so we're here to talk about Pastor Mike's latest book called Dealing with Difficult People Without Killing Them. So, Pastor Mike, what really sparked the writing of this book? Because I know everyone that's listening, and even all three of us here as a part of this interview, deal with difficult people.
You know, everyone has them, don't they? Everyone has difficult people. They're not going to leave our lives. And, difficult people can play a very important role in your life if you're mature enough to see that as it is. So I'm a Bible guy. There's the first king of Israel, King Saul was king, and then all of a sudden God rejected him, and God chose another guy by the name of David. David was the Justin Bieber of his day. That boy played an instrument and overnight success, and all the ladies loved him. But he had some character development that needed to take place. So God anointed him as king of Israel, the best king Israel ever had. But he wouldn't let him take the throne for years. And he used a difficult person by the name of Saul, who was sitting on the throne that David was supposed to have. But God used that 7-8 years to forge some really a steel down into David's character. And so I think my reason for writing this book was that everybody has difficult people. And most times those difficult people were sent by God for a character flaw possibly that was in us, or character development, because God is mostly concerned about our destination. But when we get to our destination, there's a lot of people, they get to the platform and they get there too quick. And if you get there too quick and you didn't develop your character, you won't have what it takes to keep the platform when you get it. God was making sure old David, when he got in leadership, top leadership of Israel, he finally got to the place, and God had beat that boy 7 ways to Sunday. I mean, and you ever wonder why you're getting beat up so many times by difficult people or just life? Well, a lot of times that's what we need. We need to be beat up a little bit. So I wrote it because everybody gets beat up. Everybody's got difficult people, and how we manage that is crucial to our destination.
Yeah, Pastor Mike, just kind of dive into the book a little bit. I think this is in our initial notes, but you talk about in the first chapter the really the four kinds of people that you're going to basically interact, the four types of relationships you're going to have in life. Can you unpack those a little bit for us?
Well, you're going to have to remind me of all of those. I'm an old man and I forget what I write. But there's casual relationships that we have, Travis, that we bump and roll on a lot of relationships in life. And then there are friends for a season. We have friends for a season that, just short-term friends. And then we have friends for a reason. Friends for a reason. Say if you're involved in a political campaign and you want to get your political guy elected, you'll go join with some people you don't even know, but you have a platform that is similar, so you become friends for a reason. Friends for a season and friends for a reason they're sort of temporary. You don't usually make long lasting life friends out of those types of relationships. What you're looking for in life is really lifelong friends. You may pick some up in a season, you may pick some up for a reason, but I think the most important one is friends of treason, because that right there is the one we don't want. That's right there is the one we don't like. But honestly, until you're betrayed, until a difficult person comes into your life and really hurts you, you cannot get to your destiny without a friend of treason. I'm a pastor, and my greatest model is Jesus. When Jesus he stood up one day and he said, I know a lot of people are talking about me, but what are they saying? And one said this, one said that, but Peter said, Jesus said, who do you say that I am? And Peter said, you're the Christ, you're the Messiah. And Peter was on top of the mountain that day. The next day, Peter said some dumb stuff, and Jesus called him Satan. Get behind me. You're being used by Satan. Just a very difficult thing. And then in Jesus' inner circle, he had one that betrayed him royally. You talk about your inner circle, Travis. These are your closest buddies, and one of them betrays you, and betrayed him big time. But it's interesting that when Judas Iscariot betrayed Jesus, he identified him with a kiss. Judas comes up there, and the soldiers looking for Jesus, and he kisses him on the cheek. And the interesting thing, Jesus called him friend. Jesus called him friend. A friend of treason right there. Here's a guy. He said, now you do what you got to do. Whatever you got to do. Jesus could not get to the cross without Judas. And had Jesus not gotten to the cross, none of us could have been born again and set free. So I keep that in mind, because some of those people that we call our friends are not necessarily our friends. Some people that have really wronged us, we really take, maybe it's the people who wronged us the most are our best friends. And that's what it was in the life of Jesus. So if you got a person right now in your life that is just, you want to kill them. My first title of this book, Dealing with Difficult People Before You Kill Them. Because I've had a lot of people want to kill them. But I went to the publisher, and the publisher said, we cannot print that. So he changed the word without killing them. All right. Because I've got some people I wanted to kill. But they were put there because of some character flaw or development I needed in my life. So that's the basis of friends for a reason, friends for a season, friends for life. But don't forget, friends for a treason can do more for you than anybody else.
Wow, that's so good. That is so good. Cameron?
Yeah. So, Mike, I know Pastor Mike. I know you pastor a church of over 7,000 people, and I'm sure with that comes with a pretty large staff and team that helps lead the church. And I'm sure within that team, there's difficult people that you've encountered. So, what's your approach to dealing with difficult people?
Well, Cameron, again, it's the Jesus style. Jesus hanging on the cross, and everybody's messed with him, and he simply says a simple word. He said, "Father, forgive them; they don't know what they do." I think that's my first base when I deal with people, because people don't always know what they're doing. I mean, when you're young, you make a lot of mistakes. We made a lot of mistakes in our 20s and 30s, and you just don't always know what you're doing. But I think you know, I try to teach our people. We have 70 staff members here, and that's not including our schools and what have you. But um, I promise you, one of them is doing something really stupid right now, because they are. Uh, because we always do something stupid. But I say to my people, hey, lead with love, lead with respect, lead with that. You don't know what that person's going through. You don't know what kind of hell they're having to pay at home. You don't know what people are bringing to the table. So lead with love. Never ever disrespect people, and just every day, every day. People come up to me and people come up to you, and they're going to bring the fighter out of you, or they're going to bring the king out of you. Uh, if you're a female, there's people that are going to bring the queen out of you. There's the people that are going to bring the fight out of you. You remember the story back in the Old Testament where David was, before he became king, he was out patrolling with his guys out in this valley called Valley Paran. And he got hungry. He had been out there. He had protected that valley. No one lost anything in that valley while David and his 600 men were out there, because they were pretty ruthless guys. I mean, you didn't mess with David when he was around. Nobody wanted to fight him in those early days. And so David ran low on food, and he told his guys, he said, hey, go over to that farmer's house over there, a guy by the name of Nabal, and see if he'll give us some food. He goes over there, and Nabal was a crusty old dude. He just basically cussed the guys out and said, don't you ever come back here. Who's that punk David, etc., so forth. Well, David, as soon as he heard that news, it brought the fight out of him. Just the day before, he was forgiving people, he was doing things, but the next day, one person ticked him off. He pulled out his sword. He told his 600 men, you get your sword on, we're going to kill everybody in Nabal's household. They're marching down through the valley there, and but Nabal's wife, Abigail, she heard the news, and she said, saddle me up a donkey, get me some dates, get me some figs, get me some fruit. I'm going to run out there. And she did. And she carried a load of food out there against her husband's wishes, load of food out there, and bowed before David in the middle of that desert and said, please forgive my husband. He's a foolish man. Please, here's food for all your family. And she took the fight out of David's heart. So when you see a difficult situation and you see difficult people, you have one or two options. You can fight. You can bring the fight out in that person. And a lot of times people sometimes are a whole lot better fighters than you are. You don't want to get in that tangle sometimes. But she brought the king out of him, and she reminded him, she said, David, when you come into your kingdom, you don't need the blood of this foolish man on your sword. You are a king. You are a king. Please forgive this bad decision of my husband, and completely disarmed him. If I can get all of our staff to do that, to bring the king, to bring the queens out of people, rather than to get off in this carnal, fleshly thing that we do, we want to fight, we want to just be right all the time. Lead with love, be a servant, and respect, and bring the kings and queens out of everybody. Life will be a whole lot better.
That's so true, Pastor Mike. I remember early on in my when I started in leadership roles, is I like what you said about we don't know what people's circumstances are, why they're being difficult, because I remember dealing with difficult people early on and was like, why are people so difficult? Why can't this be, kings and queens? And then once you take the time and effort, and this is hard, this is the hard part of being a leader, taking the time and effort in getting to know the individuals that are difficult, understand the circumstances, you really start to understand why they are the way they are. And then you can help better lead them as a leader. That's
Yes,
what I found.
that's a good word, Cameron, because what happens a lot of times, those people become friends for life.
Yep.
If you go through a difficult time with somebody and you put the sweat equity in it and you do the heavy lifting, you made some good friends there, and you made it in the ditches, and boy, better friends that way.
Yeah, it's a little bit harder. It takes a little bit more time and effort, but it's well worth it.
A lot more,
Yeah.
a lot of more work.
Yeah.
So, Pastor Mike, as we kind of transition, obviously, there's tons and tons of more information and content that you could share. So we encourage you guys, listening to this, to go and buy the book, Dealing with Difficult People Without Killing Them. So we don't want to give it all away. We want everybody to go out and buy your book and support this work. But me and Cameron, we transitioned into leadership roles at a very young age. For me, I'm like 22 or 23 years old when I took my first senior management position, which was fairly young for the aviation industry.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to young people who are transitioning into leadership roles today?
Well, Travis, you guys did a podcast on mentorship, great podcast, and I think the number one thing a young person needs is a mentor, but the most difficult thing is to find one that will mentor you. And I remember John Maxwell. We all know John Maxwell. John Maxwell, in his early days, he said that he couldn't get anybody to help him, so he would pay a guy, I think, $100. He'd call up a leader somewhere and say, "I'll give you $100, buy your lunch, and give you $100 if you'll have lunch with me." And he got all these great leaders. I said, "Well, I'm going to try that." I called up all these guys and offered to buy them lunch and give them $100. Nobody, when I was a young guy in my 20s, nobody would take me up on that. So I learned a big lesson that you can mentor from afar. You can mentor from a distance. So I just started buying everybody's books. I started buying everybody's CDs, and I just started downloading stuff. And because my biggest regret in life is I think that I didn't get a good mentor early enough. I think I could have solved a lot of problems in my 20s if I'd had. So I did the best I could. I went to older people, and if you'll make a relationship with older people, they'll keep you out of a lot of trouble. Yeah. Old people know stuff. I mean, a lot of old people kept me out of a lot of mistakes on the stage. I would want to say something, do something, and they said, "No, don't say that, don't do that." And so if you can't find someone to mentor you, find some older people. They will help you. Definitely a mentor at a distance, seminar, books. Someone, I bought a book one day years ago for $55, and a buddy with me said, "I can't believe you paid $55 for that book." I said, "I didn't pay for the book. I just paid for that man's life. I got his whole life story for $55, and I'm sure I'm going to learn something there." And another thing, Travis, is I've learned a lot from failures. I've learned a lot from people who failed royally. If you want to learn some really quick lessons fast, go find someone that's really messed up their life and say, "Hey, Joe, won't we have lunch? I see that you're a smart guy. You're an intelligent guy. You had a good family, and boy, you just managed to flush everything down the toilet. Tell me what you did." And boy, just take notes, and some dash lights will start to go off in your own life saying, "You know what, I better straighten up in that area of my life as well. I'm just going to be like old Joe." So you can learn a whole lot from failed mentors as well as successful mentors. And if you watch the guys with the scars, old guy told me one time, just follow the guys with the scars and you'll be okay. Uh, Find some guys with some scars, some girls with some scars. They'll teach you some stuff that a book can never teach you. Yeah.
That's so good. One more question, and I'll pass it back to Cameron. So as you look at the young people that are kind of coming into leadership today, what is one thing that you see them doing that you wish you could just say, hey, I need you to learn this lesson quickly, or something, maybe with dealing with difficult people. What is something you're seeing today that's a concern to you as a more seasoned leader?
Well, I love these young people. Matter of fact, I think young people today are smarter than we were when we were that age, and they have more tools. They have more at their fingertips. They have more than we ever had. But I think if they could learn some very basic things of honor and respect of those that have gone before you. I know they're outdated in your minds, but if you would learn honor and respect, if you would simply respect those that have gone before you, those people will recognize that, and those people have the power to bless you. Those people have the power to promote you, and those people have all kinds of power. When the baby boomers go off the scene, there's going to be the biggest transfer of wealth ever in the world that has ever happened. The baby boomers are loaded with money, and they've got to offload it to someone. And a lot of them are not going to give all that money to the family. They're looking for good young people. We're looking for good young people to invest in all the time. We have a college here, we're a university here at our church, and because we will throw the farm at young people, and if they will just pick up a few little cues like, hey, honor those that have gone on before you, respect those, and even a dog knows when you respect them. It's not you just learn, you just know. And there's some people that old people always have our eyes out for these young people that we want to invest in. And if they'll just show a little courtesy and honor the past just a little bit, I promise you, it'll take them a whole long way.
Wow.
All right. That's really good. Yeah, I think you make a good point, Pastor Mike. I think throughout my 20s, associating myself with people that are wiser and a bit more seasoned than I am, and more older, they poured into my life and added so much value than those that were kind of close to my age. So I found that very, very valuable, especially as a young leader. You're so right. Those are the people that are going to promote you, be your advocates. And I think the key to that is the respect and honor.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And it's very difficult, Cameron, because we live in a society where dishonor seems to be in vogue today, especially with our media. It's just like, oh my goodness. But somebody has to bring honor back. And I think of honor like this, everything you want in life, picture a 6-story building. Everything you want in life is on, everything you don't want in life is on the bottom floor, in the basement. You get in the elevator and you're on level 3 when you come into life. So you choose if I go up in life or if I go down in life. I choose what type of friends am I going to punch in the elevator today. Am I going to punch my friends that are 7, 8, and 9s, or am I going to punch my low-level friends that I'm going to go party and hang out with? And then this thing of honor. If every time you honor somebody or something, you take a step up. It's like you get in a spiral staircase in this building, and every time you honor, you go up. Every time you dishonor, you go down. And one day you'll find yourself, if you're a dishonoring person, you'll find yourself in the basement of life, and you're down there hanging out with all kinds of bad stuff, sickness, you're broke, you're in poverty, you don't have any friends. The list goes on and on. And you look around and say, how in the world did I get down here in this ugly basement? Well, you're down there, so choose a different pathway. You got down there through dishonor. Start honoring. If you honor, even honor your president. If you like him or if you don't like him, honor your governor. If you like him or don't like him. Honor your pastor. Honor your parents. Come on. I jokingly say a lot of times, God gave us a family to remind us there's a devil. But God gave us a family. God gave us a family not only to remind us that there's a devil, but to grow us up. We all need to grow up. And if we didn't learn it at the house, we're going to have to learn it somewhere else. And a lot of times we're going to be put in the outhouse because we didn't learn in our house what we should have learned. And it all comes through honor and respect. Yeah.
That's good. So you talk a lot about your book about relationships. And so I think you mentioned this before, but I want to hone in on this a little bit more, is why are relationships so important when dealing with difficult people? What's the importance of relationships?
You know, if you don't have relationships, when the chips go down on you, you won't have anybody to pull you out. And I've had staff members that they're real good at building relationships. And when they mess up, those relationships will pull them out of the pit. But if they've been snooty, if they've been just didn't make relationships, and when they get in trouble, those relationships will turn on you because you were never nice to them. You were always a jackass, and so why would they be friends with you? And when the tables turn on you, they're going to all turn on you. It's all based in relationship. I tell my people all the time, I said, your gift will make a way for you. Whatever gift you have, go share it with some kind of relationship. I take a lot of people out for lunch. I hardly eat lunch ever alone by myself. And I'd have to say probably 75, 80% of the time I pay for that lunch simply because I'm building relationship. I got a little cash now and I can help people. And I have a gift of giving. I use money to help people with school. I use money to help the less fortunate. And that builds a relationship. And if you use whatever gift you have and you build a relationship with it, and I'm telling you, honor people on the way up, because on the way down, that's gonna pay off, because we're all gonna fall one of these days. We're all gonna come down off our big mountain where we are, and it's how you treated the people on the way up. It determines how you're going to be treated on the way down. So I would say relationship is everything, and always give more to a relationship than you take. Who are these people that just take? Give me. My name is Jimmy. Those guys. Matter of fact, if when I was smoking dope one day, when I was 19 years of age, and I was getting high with my buddies, and I looked around that bunch and I said, you know what? I'm the smartest guy in the room here. I realized I got to get me a different room. I got to get me some new friends. Not all of your friends are going to take you where you need to go, and not all of your friends can go where you want to go. So find the relationships that are going to take you to your destiny. Invest in those relationships. It's going to cost you, but it's going to pay off. And there's no better relationship than those types of relationships.
Yeah. Before I turn it back to Travis, with relationships, a big aspect of that is trust. And I know there are probably people listening where they've lost trust with their leaders, or their leaders that have made mistakes and lost the trust of their people. Now, how do we? How do you see? How do you recommend building back that trust? Because that relationship will probably never be to that point and how it was before.
Well, whenever you screw up like that, you have to pay a trust tax, and you're going to say you committed some kind of crime or you committed some kind of stupid thing. You can come back. It's going to take you some time. Just look at the Hollywood actors that have messed up and publicly ridiculed. You give those guys 5-7 years, they'll come back around. You can come back. You can definitely come back. But rebuilding trust, so you have to go out of your way to rebuild trust. I got a guy that works with me, and he don't trust many people. Something happened to him, so I over communicate to that guy trust. I tell him everything I can tell him so that he doesn't have any suspicion toward my relationship, because I think suspicion is a big thing, especially with people that have broken trust. It's a hard journey to walk out. It's a hard journey to come back from. But if you will get with the right people, and if you will get God to help you out, you can build that trust. You're just going to have to be patient because it's going to take some time. But if I tell you, those relationships are fight for them, and it's going to take you. You're going to have to humble yourself for 3 or 4 years, but you can get back. You can find your way back, and you can do it through the gift that God has given you. You can.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So as we wrap up here to kind of close us out, we got a couple of fun questions for you to end it out. So I always like to ask two questions that I thought are very interesting for me. And the first one is, dead or alive, who would you like to have dinner with? You say you like to take people to lunch. So who would you like to have dinner with?
I'd not only like to have dinner with this person, but I'd like to just spend days on end. It's my father. My father died when I was 17, and I was not the best child. And I had been in jail 3 times, and I was just a bad kid. And now that I've outlived the age that he died at, and my father, he grew up poor, and that's one thing I grew up, and I said, I'm never going to be broke like my daddy. But he had 8 kids. I didn't know what it cost to raise 8 children. So he always borrowed money because he never had any money. If I had anybody that I could fellowship with today, I would go back and I would bless that old man that beat the hound out of me. You know, back in those days, kids got spanked, and they called them a whooping in the South, where I grew up. But I didn't understand him in those days, but I understand him now. And I'd like to have dinner with him to say thank you for all the hard times that you gave me. Thank you for being a difficult person. Even thank you for being a jackass. I don't know if I could say it on your podcast, but
That's
thank
good.
God for the jackasses that are in my life. So it'd be my father, and to pay him back for what he did to me.
Cameron, do you want to ask the last one?
Yeah, and then Pastor Mike, what have you been reading lately? Anything?
You know, I'm currently reading T.D. Jakes' books on Don't Drop the Mic, because that fits my season of life where I'm starting to wind down a little bit. And don't drop the mic, is he's saying, don't give up your voice just yet. You got a voice, continue to use it. One of my favorite books I just finished is Henry Nouwen's book, the parable of the lost son, the prodigal son. Man, that book, because I'm a Rembrandt fan, he built that book on one of Rembrandt's painting of the prodigal son. Henry Nouwen's book, the lost son, and of course Jordan Peterson. I don't know if anybody's better right now than Jordan Peterson, The 12 Rules to Life. That book, Jordan Peterson is just a clinical psychologist. I like 12 Rules to Life by Jordan Peterson. You ought to read it. You ought to read all 3 of them.
Well, Cameron, you want to wrap us up?
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Pastor Mike. For those that are listening, feel free to get your copy of Dealing with Difficult People Without Killing Them by Pastor Mike Robertson. Well, Pastor Mike, thank you so much for your time. And I know for me, I learned a lot through just speaking with you and getting to know you. And we know that this is going to add value to a lot of our listeners that are listening, both young, seasoned, and new leaders. So we hope that you found this content very valuable, and definitely check out his book. We'll drop the link in the comments. And thank you again, Pastor Mike.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for all you're doing. I think you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
I want to keep listening.
Well, thank you guys for joining us on another edition of the Leadership Download. We thank you guys so much for joining us. I hope we added value today. And if you want to be able to connect with Mike Robertson, please, check out the social media, his social media, and all his different platforms for more information. As we learned today, dealing with difficult people without killing them is it's a possibility in all of our lives. It's a challenge, but it is something that we can all do, and we should all strive to do as Christians and believers. So we thank you guys so much for joining us. Catch us on tcadvisorygroup.com. Check us out on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, wherever you want, whatever your viewing preference is. We are there and we are available to you. If you find this useful, please share, comment, or whatever is necessary on the platform that you're checking us out on. We thank you guys so much for joining us, and we'll catch you guys on the next episode.